In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, James Barlowe is going to share his thoughts on the top NBA prospects playing in the Eastern region of the 2024 NCAA tournament. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, the director of scouting for NBA Big Board, and my co-host is my brother. Let's just give him a name, the VP of scouting for NBA Big Board. We have some big things coming up on NBA Big Board over the next couple of weeks. Actually, we'll start this week. We are going to Dubai to scout the Adidas Next Generation tournament that is in Dubai. If you haven't been keeping up with international basketball, looks like Dubai is going to be joining the EuroLeague soon. I know I just saw today that a team from Dubai is going to join the Adriatic League. And the Adriatic League is the league where Nikola Topic plays. So that's just kind of how it relates to the NBA draft in this year, in a sense. But yeah, we'll be in Dubai. We'll be scouting some of the top international prospects that I would say would probably be maybe 2025 draft, more than likely 2026. But speaking of Nikola Topic, this was the tournament that he dominated last year, which kind of, I guess started the momentum to where he's at today. I've seen Zachary Reese-Shea play in this tournament a couple years ago, so it's a big international tournament, and we will be there. But we'll find a way to watch the NCAA tournament, even though the games will be coming on at 2:00 in the morning, maybe earlier, maybe later. My first time to Dubai, it'll be country number 24 for me, so I'm really looking forward to that. But it will be James's first international trip, so that should be fun. Anyway, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, because we are bringing you content 5 days a week or 20 times a month, not just what's going on in the States with college basketball and G League, but we are, like I said, we're going to be overseas in Europe. Well, not even Dubai's not even in Europe, in Asia, wherever, covering basketball live, because we are your source for NBA draft content. Like I said, we are thinking down the road, 2026 draft, 2027. But let's talk about 2024. The NCAA tournament week is here. I asked this question to Leaf. I asked it to Richard, and I'm going to ask you, James. What is your first memory of the NCAA tournament, or your best memory? Like for me, I predicted Arizona to win the national championship in 97. And ever since then, I don't think I've got one right. I haven't won any major money on brackets since. But what is your first big NCAA tournament memory?
Unfortunately, it was Michigan, Fab Five, sophomore year. Chris Webber called that timeout, man.
You were like 7 or 6.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Remember he called a timeout. I remember, I don't know if it was the same year. Tyus Edney hit that game winner.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm an old young head, depending on who you ask, man. So yeah, I remember those. I do remember the 97 because that's when they were wearing the blue foam posits.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, there's no way mom and dad is gonna spend $200 on some shoes on
That was
me,
like the
right?
first $200 shoe
Yeah,
at the time.
I remember this kid had them in middle school, and I was like, yo, you blessed. But
And that
nah,
was like the
definitely,
first where I remember the shoes didn't even match.
yeah. And then was it the next year? It had to have been the next year. UConn won, and what's my man's name? Ricky
Ricky Moore.
Williams. Ricky Moore. He was wearing the gold flight posits.
Yeah.
That team was good too. So,
So they were
but
way
no,
ahead of their time wearing shoes that didn't match, because I just remember though, Bibby wore the foam posits. They were like
yeah,
royal blue, but they didn't have any royal blue in their uniforms. And that was just like a crazy looking sneaker at the time. It was just
yeah.
totally outside the box. All right, let's get started.
All
We are
right.
covering the top prospects in the East. Who is your number one prospect in the East region of the 2024 NCAA tournament?
I want to say obviously it's going to be, excuse me, Stephon Castle, but I feel like your boy Donovan Clingan is gonna have the biggest impact as an NBA prospect or from an NBA prospect in this particular reach, just because how he plays on defense. If he defends like he's been defending lately, it's going to be tough to really beat UConn, and it caters to like college basketball caters to how he defends. So I think
So,
he's going to have the most impact.
so you believe you believe Clingan is going to have the most impact. But if you were selecting from an NBA draft perspective, you take Castle over Clingan?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I've been saying it from the jump. Castle shows enough of a jump shot, like he could end up being the best player in this draft. But like I said, the thing is with him though that they have a really, really, really good team. So, he can get away with scoring 8 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and it may not even be needed for him to do much more because they just have that much depth. I mean, you look at UConn, they may have 4, maybe 5 guys who have NBA experience when it's all said and done on this team. So
Yeah, I really like Tristan Newton. I think
yeah,
he's underrated. You got the shooter, Alex Caravan. Yeah, I mean they're a loaded team. He does have a unique situation to where he doesn't have to like put up big numbers to impact winning. He doesn't have to carry his team. But Clingan is a guy that just defensively, he just is such a massive interior presence. He looks better now than he did a few weeks back or a few months back.
yeah,
I think there are I think there may be a little bit of concerns about just a big having like multiple lower leg injuries in a year, but the way he's played, I think he's addressed them. But I do think like teams are gonna really, really like dig into his medicals to make sure that he doesn't have any like foot injuries that could linger. I feel like he's lost weight. I feel like he's not as big as he was at the beginning of the season. I think last year he was listed at 265, and then I saw he was listed at 280 this year. I just thought 280 was too big. All right, so we talked about Clingan and Castle. Who would be like your third best prospect in this East region?
You know what? It's crazy. It's not crazy. No, I'm gonna reach here. Let me stretch. You know I do that. I think Yaxel Lendeborg might be the third best prospect in this region. I dug into the film and he's playing the 5, but he's probably really a 4. He rebounds at a high level. He can grab and go off the glass. He's been shooting the 3 ball. Now, again, you want to know if that 3 ball is for real because he's shooting 43% from three in conference play, but I think overall it was like sub 30 something, 34, 35. But like he had to me has an opportunity to make a lot of money for himself if they can potentially beat your boy Jadon Ledee in UNLV and like make a Sweet 16 run.
Yeah, he is a guy that's not getting a lot of buzz. I mean, there's some like really, really like guys that like do deep dives in mid-major conferences that have talked about him, but he's a very unique prospect. I think he's a JUCO player, came from JUCO ranks.
He's still only 21. He won't be 22 until September.
Yeah, very talented, unique player. But UAB has done a good job of turning like whether it's JUCO guys or I'll just say this: UAB has a style, like they got a preference in the
Yeah.
type of players. So you take Yaxel over Terrence Shannon, who just scored
I don't know what
100.
Terrence Shannon's legal, I don't know what his legal situation looks like.
Well, just based off of like how he's played. I mean, he scored 102 points in 3 games in the Big Ten tournament. He's had an All-American year. All-American year. I
This
did
is
speak to somebody, and they mentioned that he's going to get drafted, but they're like depending on the legal situation. I think the court date is like May 10th or
May
something like that.
12th, I believe, or something like
Yeah,
yeah.
and then if they can get everything squared away and clean before the draft, then he could be a first rounder. But I had someone mention to me, as long as this case is pending, there is no way he's going to be a first round pick and get
See, and
guaranteed money. Though we're
That's
just
my
talking about strictly from the basketball.
Oh, from the basketball standpoint, I mean, like he's probably the best player, like individual player in this region. But like, I can't overlook like if he's gonna be able to play or not. But real quick though, so UConn, obviously, we talked about Clingan, right? That second round matchup, if they draw Northwestern, Rob,
Buie.
Buie is going to have Clingan in hell if he's having to play drop defense, dog. Boo buckets.
All right, when we return, we'll talk a little bit more about Buie. But let's talk about eBay Motors because passion, drive, and patience, that is what brings home the winning trophy. It is also what keeps your car alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Whether it's superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, and style, eBay Motors has you covered. They have over 122 million parts to choose from. And you will always find exactly what you're looking for with the eBay Guaranteed Fit. And your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you will get your moolah back because eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your car alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, and the eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers. As you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today. And if you are a baseball fan, mark your calendar for March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern for the Major League Baseball season preview coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today on March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Be the first to get local insight from the Major League Baseball local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. So find it again, March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or for free on the Amazon Fire TV channel app. All right, second segment, the first segment, James and I talked a little bit about UConn and Donovan Clingan and Stephon Castle. Talked a little bit about Terrence Shannon, Yaxel, Lendeborg. How do you pronounce it?
I believe it's Lendeborg.
Lendeborg. And then James brought up Buie.
Buie.
Probably one of the coolest names in
Oh
college
yeah, for
basketball.
sure.
A phenomenal pick and roll playmaker. You kind of hinted that you think he's going to give Clingan some issues in drop coverage. Elaborate.
Look, it's going up every single time. The big is in drop, and if he comes off that screen clean, going up. And he's a great shooter. Like he's gonna make a lot of money playing basketball in Europe, man. A
What
lot of
what are the
bread.
reasons why you don't think he is, or what is the reason why you think he'll make his money in Europe as opposed to the NBA? That's a question that somebody's going to ask.
Yeah, I think he's small, just like physically small, and even I think he's a fifth year senior, and he still like has that smaller frame. Again, if we just sit here and say, can he shoot at that high level at the NBA? I think so. That's not necessarily the issue with guys who um float overseas versus the NBA. In the drill down role, he's probably a catch and shoot, maybe a I think I wrote down maybe a Patty Williams type. Patty
Who?
Mills, excuse me.
Patty
Patty
Mills about to
Mills.
say.
I'm tripping. I'm looking at something else. Patty Mills type kind of guard, but ultimately will he be able to defend because you look at him, he's a small, average athlete. They're gonna attack him every single trip down the court on defense. I don't expect him to play point guard in the NBA. I mean, his best asset is his shooting, but will he be able to defend at an NBA level? Probably be his biggest concern. I think he gets like a summer league invite just because he's a prolific scorer, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like one of the most efficient pick and roll scorers in all of college basketball.
Yes.
Is he your, like, what is he on your list? Is he like your fourth best prospect in the East, or is that just something you brought up in
It's
relation to
something I
Clingan.
brought up, just something I brought up, just because, like, I looked at it from the matchup standpoint. Like, okay, I wrote down who from each particular matchup. So, like, Connecticut, I got them steamrolling Stetson. No disrespect to Stetson, but that Florida Atlantic and Northwestern matchup, it's going to be a good game, I think. John Davis, we've talked about him being potentially a prospect. He's a good basketball player. So,
Hooper.
like,
He's a hooper. I don't.
yeah.
He just well, he don't pass. Is that what it is?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
right? But I think that Northwestern, because of how Florida Atlantic plays, like they play exactly what Buie wants to see. Is their big is 7-footer and drop coverage, and he's gonna tear that apart. But as far as like Buie, him and Terrence Shannon are like the most talented guys, obviously, but that's just not how the NBA works and how college basketball works. Like being the best player in the region can mean a lot right now in March, but you know, you like Terrence Shannon's what, a year 5 guy, I believe. I think Boo is a year 5 guy. I mean, you like expect that, but like this region just overall has a lot of talent.
A lot of talent. Yeah, I've done my research on the region. Want to talk about Coleman Hawkins. He's a guy that I think is a
Mm.
tease, man. He's got the size at 6'10". It's like when you watch his film or watch his games, you see him shoot, you're like, man, he can shoot. But then you see his numbers, like until this year is the first year that he's actually been efficient from three, but he shows the capability of passing, whether he can initiate the offense at the high post. He's extremely skilled. He's a guy that I want to say 2 years ago, I thought like, hey man, this guy's a first round pick. He's just putting it together, but I don't want to say it's too late. I think he can have a big run in the tournament that could boost him. I mean, this class is wide open, so I don't even think it's unheard of to say he could end up being a first round pick if they make a long tournament run. But we're talking 6'10", can handle, can pass. He's averaging over a block and over a steal per game. He has a skill set to fit the modern NBA, but I think it all revolves around can he efficiently make 3-point shots because that opens up every part of his game. What is your thoughts on Coleman Hawkins? Because to me, he's been like a tease in a sense. Like you see the tools, but it's like you want like you like for me, it's like, man, I want to see more. I want to see more consistency.
Permanent potential, man. It just might be that way with him. He comes up on my timeline a lot. Again, you see he'll have a monster game, do everything that you mentioned, and then just don't see it as often. I can't take somebody like that in the first round of the draft just because like again, potential isn't to me age based, but if we're still trying to be consistent like this far into the game, I don't think I can give a first round pick or a first round grade to somebody like that. Now, again, does he figure it out? Who's to say he won't? Again, the talent is definitely there. It's just the inconsistency is a lot to deal with.
Yep. All right. Who's the next prospect that you wanted to cover?
All right, so let me talk about this game here. Auburn and Yale, man, that's got some sneaky talent in there. Not sneaky from we have heard about Johni Broome. Johni Broome is really, really good.
I've heard
Uh,
him being compared to the Morris twins. What do you think about that comparison?
I don't think he has the isolation game of the Morris twins. I was watching him and I'm like, I can't figure out who he plays like, but like he's a shot blocker that's athletic that doesn't jump high, if that makes any kind of sense, right?
Timing?
Then yes, so it's timing. He rebounds at a high level, and but at the same time, like he shoots the three, it's ugly, and he tries to stretch the floor, and I think he's up to like 40% from three, but he's like a career like 66% free throw shooter. So I'm trying to figure out like, is his shooting touch real?
There's quite a few guys in this class, or I'm trying to figure it out. There's guys that are poor shooters that are good foul shooters, like Jamal Shed, for example. I think he's like an 81% free throw shooter, but
Dude,
he's
he
like 30s from three. Then
career 30s.
yeah, then you have Harrison Ingram, who I think is in the high 30s from three, but it's like high 50s or low 60s from the foul line. It's just very interesting to see. Like there are guys that they can't do one well and they're efficient at the other and so on.
I got a name for you though, Ralph. So I talked about the Auburn side. I don't know if you're aware of them, so I'm just gonna assume that you're not. Danny Wolf from Yale.
Yeah,
You
international guy.
seven? Is he international? They got him from Illinois.
I think he's got fan, but I think he's played in some of the international circuits.
Hey, look, 2025 guy for real. 7 foot. He can handle. He shoots on the move. Like he is tough. Tough. Very much so a 2025 guy out of Yale. I don't know if these because the Ivy League is rising. I don't know if these Ivy League guys are gonna stay in the Ivy League, but he is a name to definitely look out for because he can shoot, he can put the ball on the ground, he's very mobile. They put him in actions like Dirk. He's not just, stretching and off the roll, like they'll send him off a pin down. Like he's got a lot of game, and I think that you should think an Auburn team would overpower Yale, but he's going to be a very very tough matchup.
Yeah, he represented Israel
Israel.
at the under 20s last summer. But 7 footer, skilled. For him, it's the showcase to the NBA, but he's also showcasing his talent to all these Power Five schools that I know are going to be watching with this transfer portal thing getting crazier and crazy. I mean, the transfer portal is already pretty deep, and we're only like what, a day or two in. I talked to a college coach yesterday. I called him just for something not necessarily related to his team, and he answered immediately. And he was in the office, and he was like, "You got something for me?" I was like, "No, I was just calling to, say yada yada yada." And he was like, "Man, we answering the phone because the portal's open. We in the office all day answering calls and looking
Look,
and scouting and so on." So Danny Wolf will be a name that
hey,
NBA
Rod.
scouts and I'd say bigger schools are going to be looking at in this tournament.
Speaking of the portal audition tape, that Iowa State South Dakota State game is going to be. Look, every college coach is going to be watching that game. Zeke, I don't know if it's Mayo or Mayo. We're
Hey,
just gonna
he's
go.
I'm a big Zeke Mayo
Look,
fan. I've been talking
that's
about
hey,
him
look.
for a while.
He's
Great
the real.
passer,
He's the real Patty Mills right there.
great passer. All right, when we return, we'll talk a little bit more about Zeke Mayo and also another guy that I really like on that South Dakota State team, William Kyle.
They about to get siphoned out of South Dakota State.
All right, before we get into the last segment, I want to talk about Nissan and ask you a question because I want to know, are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Do you ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Well, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. First, let's talk about the 2024 Nissan Rogue. It is perfect for city drives and great escapes. You have Class Executive Google built in, which is always your updated assistant to call for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone with the Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store. Built right in the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. And then there is the Nissan Pathfinder. It has room up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability. It also has 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds of towing. It can tow up to 6,000 pounds. So when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or even the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, last segment, we talked a little bit about Zeke Mayo, and I mentioned William Kyle, two guys that I really, really like from that South Dakota State team. Zeke Mayo is a guy I talked about last year. He's from Lawrence, Kansas. And I understand Kansas has, Dwan Harris, and they got some talent on the team. Maybe he felt like I just don't know how a guy that talented gets out of Lawrence, Kansas. And then we have
How
William
does he
Kyle.
got a? How does he not even go to Kansas State?
I'm not sure. I mean, the Kansas State staff that is there now wasn't there when he entered
That's
school.
true.
but I like William Kyle. And I don't know if you remember, you were a youngin', but the Rollins family that lived around the corner from us, I was like in sixth grade, so that means you were
Yeah,
like in
that was
kindergarten.
before my time, man.
His mom is was like my classmate in like fourth through sixth grade. And so I've just kind of watched him from afar, but he's like a late bloomer. Like he was a guy that wasn't really highly recruited out of high school. I mean, he showed the athletic flashes, but I think he has a chance to be a pro. Super athletic, fits your mode of your pick and roll finisher. And how I ended up coming across him was watching Zeke Mayo last year. And I was like, man, who's this dude jumping out the gym that's the recipient of all these dimes? Did the research, and I was like, oh, that's William. Like, I hadn't seen him since he was younger, but go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, like I said before we went to break, man. I mean, I don't wish, losing guys to the portal on any program, but it's gonna be hard to convince those two to stay because, like I said, their name is gonna be hot. Iowa State is really, really good. I wouldn't, and I'm with Iowa State, like I can't like pick against them, but like they're gonna have their hands full with Mayo and William Kyle. But yeah, Kyle is athletic. Like I said, man, he's the ultimate dude that if you would have gave him like prime James Harden, he would have made a bunch of bread off of that just because like screening, rolling, and dunking, like that's him, and he's a super athlete. I have my eyes on that game. Like I said, I don't those dudes' phones gotta be blowing up. If
All right.
they're not blowing up now, they will be blowing up very, very soon.
Well, they got to win. They
I
definitely
don't
got to
even think
got to
it.
win game.
I don't think it even matters. I think that people know they just need to play well.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about the Iowa State team. There's three guys that I think have NBA potential. Mamasilovic, scorer, underrated player. I know you liked him earlier in the season. You got Keyshawn Gilbert.
Hmm.
Well, I just wish he could shoot. He's got game. I just wish he could shoot. And then you got the
Tired of
point
saying
guard.
that, man. I wish he
What's
could
that?
shoot. I'm tired of saying I wish he could shoot, man.
Yeah, I mean, but for me, it's there's so many guys that are so gifted getting to the basket, and I could see how you can make it so far without being able to shoot because in on a high school level, you may have been bailing teams out if you were shooting jumpers. Especially if
Mhm.
you can get to the rack every time. And so I
But
think that there
I
that's the
always
case for
say
some
though,
guys.
but I just always say, man, you gotta work on your game past where you are today, man. You gotta think long term, like. If it's easy now, it's not always going to be easy. It's no different than the big that needs to work on his back to the basket game or his jump shot, and the guard that needs to work on his jump shot. Like you got to think past your trainer, whoever OGs. You got to think past where we are today, where or what is going to translate 3 or 4 years from now. And I
Yeah.
don't want to say guys aren't working on their jump shot. I'm tired of saying, man, I wish he could shoot. Man, I wish he could shoot. It's like you got to work on everything if
Yeah, I
that's what
mean,
you do at the highest level.
there's guys in the pros that still are inconsistent shooters. I want to talk
Yeah,
about Lipsy, Taven Lipsy. Small, 6'1", but he's 200 pounds, so he's solid. Good numbers across the board, 12 points per
great
game.
numbers.
It's almost like you can pencil him in for 12, 5, and 5 every night.
What's his steal numbers? Is it still high?
2.8 steals per game.
It went down.
Yeah,
It was something crazy at the
something
beginning of the year.
crazy. So he's a guy that stuffs the stat sheet about 38% from three, but below 70% from the foul line. What do you think about him as an NBA prospect?
Patrick Beverly.
Okay. He's from
Yeah.
Ames, Iowa.
Wow, Ames, Iowa is putting out quality players, man. Shout out to Ames, Iowa,
They must be
man.
playing at that rec center used to hoop at.
Man, they had a couple of them sneak in there, man. I was trying to back in my prime, I was trying to break one of the dude's ankles, but he was moving, man. He was about 6'11". But now Lipsy, man, I get big Patrick Beverly vibes from him, man. I don't trust him to be a full-time point guard at all. I know he has good assist numbers, but he just looks raw to me, man. But again, if you ask him to go out there and defend at a high level, I think he can do that, but like he's definitely a 3-and-D point guard to me.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
think
then
there's value in that.
yeah,
All right,
yeah, for sure.
Jackson Robinson, another guy, kind of a tease in a sense. Like you see the size and the physical tools, the flashes of being able to like attack off the closeout, attack a closeout, and then you kind of pencil him in as a shooter. You look at the shooting percentages, they're not like sizzling. It's like 34.9%, but it's on like 6 attempts per game. What do you think about him? Because I felt like he had big buzz earlier in the season. Like he had a stretch where he was looking to me like a first round pick. And then, he kind of struggled a little bit in conference play, but then he has flashes where he's high, but then he just has off shooting games. What do you think about him? But I know you don't like the term 3-and-D. So guys that, and I know what you're gonna say. If he's not making shots, what is he doing?
What does he do? So look, he can kind of dribble, but he doesn't get to the foul line, right? And he's not really a playmaker. And then like he has the reputation of being a shooter, but in conference play, as the guy, well, off the bench, he was the guy. He's the guy. They just bring him off the bench. I don't
Yeah,
understand, but
he closes lineups.
yeah, shout out to my people at BYU. He shot 30% from three in conference play. So it's like he might be a shooter that can't shoot. I don't know, maybe not to that extent, but I feel like somebody who has a reputation of having a burner, and this is year four, like he should be a way better shooter, even on paper. As I mean, like the eye test, like it looks good, but yeah, I don't know, man. I think BYU probably wins this game, but I don't know how they're gonna do in the second round. And as far as him, like he just hasn't really been consistent like
Yep.
you want him to be. I know he's young for his class, but this is still his fourth year of college basketball.
Yep. I want to talk about three more guys. Ladie, what are your thoughts on Jadon Ladie? They have a game against UAB. We talked about that earlier. I think he's a matchup problem. He's strong. He's physical,
He played like the football players I used to play with at school, man.
but he's
Just
got like
he has handles though,
yeah.
right?
He used to be a point guard. He used to be a point
Man,
guard.
he's a tough matchup because like either he's ducking in and he's just gonna be a bully, or he's gonna face up and run you over. But like I said, I feel like Yaxel's the better player, and I feel like Yaxel's gonna make himself a lot of money if they can win games and he plays well. Uh, Jadon Ladie, man, is tough, man. I know he's an older guy, but I feel like he's a tough matchup, man. It's gonna be a real tough matchup. Who else did you
Yeah,
have?
I could see him like. I mean, Yaxel's not slim, but Ladie's a different monster in the college
Yeah, he
game. And
looks like
then
a
with
tight end out there.
yeah, and then with the skills like the face up, he's a good passer. The turnover numbers are high, but he seems like a guy that could like just carry your team far in the tournament because he's gonna foul your guys out. Like
Yeah, yeah,
he's gonna
you
get your guys in foul trouble, whether it's ducking in, bully ball. I really like him. I think that he's someone that could get a two-way. 21 points, 8 rebounds per game, shot 41% from three, even
but
though
did you
he
see his form now?
yeah, that's what some people were saying. They didn't like his form. They didn't think he'd be able to stretch, but he didn't make a single three his
Hold
whole
on.
entire career, and he shot
Why don't people
41%.
think he's gonna be able to stretch? Nobody's gonna guard him shooting like that. Like he's gonna have all day to get that shot off. So I mean, if he makes it, I mean, it doesn't really matter what it looks like. It's ugly, but if it goes in, it goes in. I just don't. I'm not closing out on him shooting that. Not with all the muscles.
Hey, so check this out: 8.7 foul attempts per game in the NCAA tournament. If he gets your big in trouble, you're in trouble.
Okay, so look, Yaxel's very important to UAB. It'll be interesting to see if they put him on the D. Like
Yeah,
you gotta put him on him, and he like help has to come immediately. Not just because you don't think he can guard him, but just your
you
best
can't
player
get in
can't
foul
foul
trouble.
out.
All
Yeah.
right, last game I want to talk about, which I think is going to be one of the better games. Washington State and Drake. Washington State has a couple
Mm.
guys. Do you like Tucker DeVries?
He is he not a, look. I think his shooting number. He's like the opposite of Jackson Robinson, right? I think he's a better shooter than what his numbers show.
Is
Like
is he just
his
taking?
shot selection
Yeah.
is tough because those are the shots he has to take for that team to be good. I think he may not be able to, I don't know if he'll be able to defend at a high level because he might have to guard fours because he is a big dude. He's 6'7", right? So I don't know if he'll be able to defend on the wing in the NBA. But if you told him to stand in the corner and just shoot, he can definitely catch and shoot. Like he's got a burner.
Yeah. Pull ups. He's got game. He's more than
He's
just
got
a
a
spot up
lot of
shooter.
game.
He
Yeah.
rebounds, good passer, 3.5 assists per game. I like him a lot. I actually liked him last year when Drake had that old team. Last year, their NCAA tournament team was older than the Houston Rockets. They had like a bunch of guys that, as we call family men,
Yeah.
that were months away from being a family. I mean, they were like 23, 24, 25, but I like him a lot. And then I wanted to get your opinion on Jalen Wells from Washington State.
I was whelmed, man. I was underwhelmed. Like I get it, he shoots the three ball pretty well, but I didn't see like NBA from him right now.
Okay.
I did watch Miles Rice. I think Miles Rice is good, but
But
like I
shooting,
did, huh?
he doesn't shoot the ball well.
Yeah, again, another one of those guys. But I
Phenomenal
think
story though.
yeah, I don't know about those guys as like pros. I think the guy that I'm gonna watch as far as like, okay, maybe he has a future is gonna be Tucker DeVries. Real quick though, we talked about Zeke Mayo. How does he get out of Lawrence? I don't think I have to do the research, but Tucker DeVries is from Waukee, Iowa, which is like, I don't know, 30 minutes from Ames. So he had an offer from Iowa State and he had an offer from Florida, and he was like, nah, I'm about to go be the big dog at Drake. And like I respect that because like everything is on him. He not trying to fit because if you got to think because he's a great scorer, great shooter. Like at those Power Five schools, they might try to box him in and say, "Man, we need you to just
Stand in the
space the
corner."
floor." Or
Yep.
and then year 3, year 4, you can like get loose. Where he's been the man at Drake since the day he stepped on campus. So like I respect that.
But you know why he went to Drake though? His dad's the
Uh,
basketball coach.
I mean, that probably makes sense too, but some guys don't want to play for their pops.
Him and Peyton Sanford on the same team, and another little nugget. He was born in Omaha and went to Elkhorn.
We got to stop losing. Well, we
I
had the
mean,
Rex Walters did that garbage,
yeah,
man.
but
We
we
got to
left too.
stop.
So,
Yeah, that's different, man.
what's the name? What's my man's name for the Bulls? I think he was born in Omaha, or he spends a lot of time in Omaha.
Ryan Windhorse.
No, yeah, he lives in Omaha. Caruso.
What?
Yeah, Alex Caruso is always in Omaha.
I didn't know that.
I think he was born in Omaha.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna pull it up real fast. No, he was born in College Station, but I want to say he lived in Omaha. I know he's got some ties, and I know he goes for like the College World Series all the time. No, his father played for Creighton. And then he was the associate AD at A&M. So that's why he was born in College Station. But he has a lot of family in Omaha or whatever. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode with James and I. We will cover the next region, which is the South region of the 2024 NCAA tournament. And the South region has, it's funny, Texas A&M, where we just talked about Caruso, where he went to school, and they play Nebraska. And what's interesting about that matchup is that the athletic director at Nebraska, Trev Albert, a Husker, left to take the job at Texas A&M. All right, once again, it's Rafael and my brother James. Stay tuned for the South bracket, and we are out.